Welcome back to the Late Breakers podcast, episode number 4. Hey, we're actually going on a roll with this right now. We've got a little bit of a 1 week break before the Qatar Grand Prix. Well, actually, it's this weekend. It's coming up the 6th of October till the 7th. 6th. 8th, sorry, correction there. But it's going to be a fun one. We haven't seen Qatar in a while since George Russell, I believe it was, since George Russell made his lovely appearance in the Mercedes car, which that in of itself is a funny situation. But we have loads to talk about this weekend and this episode. We've got our resident race car driver, Mr. I Am Speed, with us here. How are you doing, sir?
Well, hello there. Yeah, dude, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
It's all good. It's all good on my side, as well as we have Nash returning with us for another episode. How you doing, man?
I'm doing sensationally. How are you, good sir?
Ah, like I said, can't be can't be too bad, you know. Jim's doing good and all, but we're not here to talk about Jim. We're here to talk about Formula One, which is the topic of today's weekend. And one thing I want to get into is more the Qatar circuit. So, Mr. I'm Speed, I believe you've had a little bit of a look see at it.
Yeah, I've dabbled on it a bit. Not one of my favorite tracks, but I have set a time.
You have
Uh, yeah, currently it's a 1 minute 21.508.
okay.
There is definitely some time still to be found, but I think I spent about 15 or so laps, and I managed to put down that time.
Oh, no, that's lovely. If you guys are out there, you can feel free to challenge these lap time. You'll see it also on our socials because we
Yeah,
are.
please do.
It's always fun to see how everyone else does their laps. What else do you think you could expect from the circuit? Because I think if you just look at it, it looks like a bit of a boring circuit. Not gonna lie, like it looks like Bahrain, but it needs a little more extra.
It is 100%. It's definitely not one of my favorite circuits. Um, I think the biggest thing that we're gonna see that's kind of like everyone, especially playing the game or even the drivers, it's one of the more, I'm gonna say, low skill cap tracks because there's no elevation changes. There's wide runoff areas. It's quite high speed, so you have someone or some of the inexperienced drivers are going to struggle a little bit on controlling the car at those high speed corners. But again, they're not going to have to worry about elevation changes. So it's not going to be stuff like, Logan coming down toward the pit straight and losing it there because the car behaves differently when the downforce isn't kind of doing what it's supposed to do just yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have stuff like that happen at Qatar. Like that track is basically flat.
Yeah.
So, do you expect that Logan and, well, potentially Lance Stroll are going to have an easier time on Qatar? Or do you also think that they'll crash this weekend or no?
Don't get me
Because
wrong. It,
right
it
now, it seems like every weekend they put it in a wall.
don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean just because the track's easier that they're not going to bin it.
Yeah, I
There's some driver mods missing on the grid at the moment.
driver
You're not
mods.
wrong about that. You really aren't.
No, it is. I think it's very interesting to look at, but back then when we did the Qatar race previously, I wasn't as interested in it. It was a race where I tuned in, and the only reason to keep me watching was the fact that George was in that Mercedes racing around it,
Hmm.
and he had that outstanding performance, which just it's
Absolutely mugged Valtteri off the line.
oh absolutely, and it's just it lacks, like you said, it has no elevation, and that really lacks shows character, the type of character your circuit has. And when it has elevation, it has a better character. I look at like something like Brazil, right? That's probably one of my favorite tracks ever, purely because you have those elevation changes and you have to think a lot more about it. So hopefully Logan might not crash.
And that being said, like those tracks are also pretty. So like just from a spectator's standpoint, you have stuff to look at. Like there's greenery, there's stands, there's people. There's all this going on around the track. Never mind just the racing.
The
So
only thing in Qatar is a city, bruv. Everything
yeah,
else is just land.
exactly. So like from even a driver's perspective, when you're on that track, and I'm just talking, obviously I haven't been to the actual track, but on the game, you feel like you're racing on a test track. Like there's nothing around you. It's just barren, and there's just a road in front of you. So
Mm.
it's also I think the fatigue is really plague on the more experienced and the younger drivers. I think Piastri is not really going to be affected by that. He seems to be on his game at the moment. And that being said, that McLaren likes the fast flowing corners,
Yes,
and
bruv.
this track is fast flowing corners. I think the McLarens are going to do great at this track, especially Piastri. But I really think that fatigue on the more inexperienced drivers is really going to plague them. It's going to be really hard to keep that concentration going because it's not particularly, it's not an exciting racetrack.
Yeah.
So again, the mental fatigue is similar to how what happened in Singapore.
Yeah, but
So
just on the other side of the spectrum. Like now
yeah, yeah.
you don't have to be that kind of coherent to everything that's going on around you, but you still
Mm.
have to stay in it. Like as soon as the like the Logan Sargents are gonna drop back from the pack and they don't have someone directly in front of them to chase, they're gonna struggle.
Mm. Mm. That's a very good point. Thanks for that perspective. Like it's rare that you get a perspective of someone that's actually done some laps around the racetrack, and it's nice to have that perspective from you.
Yeah, and especially and this is coming from literal experience of today, where I found an online race and they were doing Qatar, and
Yeah.
the second I got out in front, I was like, there's nothing that excites me about this track. Like all I did was try to perfect one corner at a time, and other than that, the rest of the track seemed to be kind of okay. And obviously, it was in race trim, so I was a little bit slow. I think my fastest lap was a 123 something, low
Mm-hmm.
123, so 2 seconds off my pace. But it's in race trim, tires degrading, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get out in front, and it just became boring. Like there was nothing keeping me interested. The track's not pretty. The track's not particularly exciting. It's not like
Mm.
like Brazil, hell, even France. France does have kind of the same setup where it
We're talking
is
about Paul Ricard.
wide. Yes,
Okay.
it's that kind of like wide setup track where you look and you can put like 9, 10 cars in front of you off the track and they're still not going to hit the wall.
No, no.
Yeah.
The,
So
the
Yeah.
standard for that is flying a plane, like Charles. He had enough time to fly a plane with that one.
exactly, he can
And he
take
still
off
hit
by
the
the
wall.
time you hit the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the kind of like wideness and big vast space on that track that I'm talking about. But you still
But
don't
it's not
feel bored.
exciting.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about France. You still
No,
don't
I'm
feel
specifically
bored.
talking about. I'm talking about Qatar,
Yeah,
where Qatar is
it's yeah,
boring,
it's that
which is
big open
disappointing
space
because
and
it's
there's
a
just
circuit.
nothing there.
Yeah, that's really disappointing because it is a newer circuit
Hmm.
by all standards, and you you would expect them to actually take a look at tracks like Circuit DM, which is actually a really great track, and maybe build something in the vein of that
Yeah,
rather than or take nice cool elements from different racetracks like the Suzuka S's, Wall of Champions from Canada, Eau Rouge from
Spa.
Spa, and you put that all in one racetrack.
but you got to remember the big things about Eau Rouge is that climb all the way up.
Yes,
The
the elevation that
Suzuka
does
Suzuka
100%.
is, again, it's got elevation in it.
Mm, mm,
Canada has some elevation. It's not as much as the other tracks, but there is still some elevation. There is, especially through turn 4, that little S that it has. That's a pretty big elevation change if you don't get it right. So it'll definitely throw off your car. But that is the thing that makes tracks exciting. It keeps you
mm,
entertained. It's a true test of driver skill. Can you make this car behave and do what you want it to do
mm,
when gravity is coming into play, where you now can't see the nose of your car because the floor has disappeared in front of you? Like, do you know what to do? There's going to be none of that at this track.
Which I think
yeah,
plays
that's it.
quite well into the rookies' favor for at least this racetrack. I was looking at the pictures of it right now, and the like again, you can lift the plane off with the amount of runoff we have. So if we get a safety car here, it means that Lance Stroll and Logan Sargent have managed to crash into each other. Like that is what I am. That's my prediction, right? Because or one of them just beaches their car in the gravel because yeah, that's the only other result in terms of getting a safety car here. But I honestly feel it should be simple enough for the rookies not to make that many mistakes. I expect the
Well,
mistakes at least to happen in practice rather than
Yeah.
Well, Stroll's not a rookie, but he sure as hell drives like one at
Yeah,
times.
he's driving like a rookie at the moment.
he's a permanent rookie. Stroll will never graduate to not being a rookie in F1 until the day Stroll manages to actually keep close in the points with his own teammate. I I cannot I cannot trust the man's.
Yeah, but I do think you're right there. I don't think there's going to be they're going to have to try really hard to bend the car into a wall and bring out a safety car on in the race. I think the only time that something will really happen is the run down to turn one, of course, and then probably 2, 3, 4, 5, the tight hairpin.
Yes.
I think it's turn 5. There might be something there on lap 1 or 2, depending on how the racing goes. But there isn't really anything else there. This is also a track with only one DRS zone, and it's a very, very long straight. So I really don't think that there's so little margin, or there's margin for error rather on this track. So if someone does bend it into a wall, I'd be impressed at that point.
Yeah, I do think. But now let's go to and take a look at like car setup wise, right? What would you think you would want in terms of like downforce? Would you want some more downforce for the rear, front, or
Um,
less downforce overall for this type of a track?
See, you'd kind of you'd lean toward less downforce on a track like this,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just going to you want to rely on the cars just the way that they're built and their natural downforce. You're going to lean more toward that because when you go faster, the car is basically being pushed down so much more. So I think one of the things you will see is these cars I'm sure everyone has seen the sparks flying out from the back of the cars
Yeah.
at, let's say, Singapore. You was very prevalent there. It's a very high downforce track. Here I don't think we're going to see a single spark out of any car. They're not going to need it. They at this point they just want to go as fast as possible. I think the McLarens are set up really well for it. Williams might even, sorry, Alex Albon is probably going to be someone to look out for. I definitely think as long as Checo doesn't decide that he wants to be inside his car with him at the same time, Albon's going to be looking good for a race like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's been doing really well. His car is set up for it. So you're definitely not leaning toward the downforce route. You are looking to make the most out of the high speed on this track. It's almost, you can probably compare this to something like Monza. You're not really running high downforce on tracks like these.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So we can expect then to see the drivers and teams set up the cars with more of a low downforce and
Mhm.
low drag spec is what we should
Yeah.
actually call it.
Yeah, most definitely. You've got two high braking zones. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I think where I think Alex will struggle a bit more, especially with that Williams, is coming out of turn 7, right? Because you know we go turn 1 is the right hander, turn 2 is the
Mhm.
left, 3 is that little kink there, and then 6 is the hairpin. 7 is the second hairpin, which how many hairpins can you even have in a track? Like,
Yeah, quite a few. I think there's what 12 turns or 12 corners.
it's 16 in total.
And really braking heavily. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're only braking properly for one of them.
Yeah. Which I think turn 7 all the way to turn 10, I think is going to be a little bit of an issue, or even maybe from like turn 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alex is the Williams. I feel like they're not going to be as well suited, but I still need to hop onto the game and actually try the circuit out myself. I haven't even seen it, but just looking from it overall, this looks like a very low speed type of section. Especially
No, you'd be surprised. You're flat.
you're flat out from turn
You're
7
flat.
onwards.
You're
Okay.
flat through there.
All right, then okay, then Alex, then I can see that Alex is gonna have
Even
worries.
the second last quarter,
Yeah.
that's just a downshift. It's kind of like oh god, which track did they redo and they took out the S's at the end? Was it Spain?
Yes, Spain is the
Yeah.
chicane.
Yeah, Spain.
So Spain's up the hill, that right hander where you kind of just like lift off for a split second.
Yeah.
So that's this corner. It's literally the same thing. You downshift, you lift off, and you're back on the throttle on that apex. And you let the car drift out a little bit wide, and that corner is basically almost flat.
Okay. That's interesting point of view. I still need to try hit up the track and put in this lap time because if what you're telling me right now, that sounds like it just might end up being a very boring race to watch because
Yeah,
the Red Bulls are just gonna run away, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just going to be a thing where they're gonna get the setup down. Max is gonna run away. Checo's gonna fight for positions because that's his current job. It's just fighting to get into the top 10.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And from that, oh, I see McLaren. I can forecast now. McLaren is probably on the podium again this weekend.
Mhm.
Whether,
Yeah.
whether it's with both drivers or if a Mercedes can sneak into there. Oh, but then again, I forget the Ferraris. But in that race that you did, right? How was tire wear? That is a big factor.
So it is hot.
Yes.
I
That
mean, it's
is
the desert.
something. Yeah, that is something that's gonna be really that really needs to be taken into account. So softs, I think, are not on the cards at all in this race.
Okay.
So medium to hard.
Yeah, you're probably gonna want to go medium hard. You might even have your two-stop strats that come out during the race. Again, it depends on the weather that day. It depends on the humidity. It depends on track temps. But this is going to be if it does stay dry and it is hot as it usually is there. Tire day is going to be mega because those tires are almost going to be melting off those cars.
Okay.
So it is going to be. I think it's not. I don't like that it is this way, but this race is won with everyone else. So when I say one, I mean making it into the points because you all know who's winning the race.
Yeah.
But this race is won on tire management and pit strategies. Like it's
Yeah.
unfortunately not the racing that we want it to be. It's not going to be even though it was about strategy in Singapore with the smooth operator.
Mhm.
It's still made for a good race at the end. This is not going to be that. This is going to be a clear cut race where if someone in that pit window gets it right, you're going to have the advantage and no one's going to really be able to catch up. Again, there's one DRS zone where you're all going to be topping out at around maybe 350. And when a Red Bull gets that DRS or when a Red Bull gets that clear air, you're not catching it. I really don't think that anyone's going to catch them. If, let's say, Max comes out with in front or behind P1 and gets that DRS, the person with DRS behind him is still not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah.
So he's going to get ahead, and if you happen to get DRS behind him, you're still not overtaking into turn one.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those, and I really think if Checo can pull himself together, and he actually uses the car for what it is, he's almost guaranteed a P2 at a track like this. But we'll just see how he does in practice and whether he can get to grips again because he seems to be a bit lost at the moment. But this is a track that is really going to it's a free win for those Red Bulls.
Definitely.
It's a free win for Max. The development of the cars moved away from Checo quite a bit since the beginning of the season. For him, it doesn't seem like he's getting to grips with the way the car's handling now.
Yeah, I think this track is even if he is struggling with it, this track is going to be one of those tracks that's going to help him just by not being particularly technical.
Yeah. I
Hopefully,
I hope for the man's, but
Yeah, he does need a bit of a confidence booster, to
he
be
does.
honest.
Yeah,
and
I
just
think
to
he
get
needs a podium. It's been a while.
Yeah.
once he can get the drive back, I think he can. The thing is, I think, like you said, tire wear is going to be a big problem, and I think this is a very big, great opportunity for him to show his true skill at managing the tires,
Yeah,
and
that he's still got it.
he's got the pace. All he has to do this race is not be too overly ambitious, I would say, in terms of his
Yeah.
overtakes, and just have trust in the car, use his tires well, and he can easily score that podium for himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think what happened to him in Japan was just frustration. That is the drive of someone who is so frustrated, who's just been beat down, and he's like, I know I can do it. And he just felt somewhat entitled
Mm-hmm.
because he
Yeah,
is in a Red Bull. I don't know if you
yeah,
guys touched on this topic, but that's what it was, from, especially from, I'm gonna call myself from a driver's point of view. Like that's kind of what I would do if everything he's gone through this year, with all the comments from Marco and the stuff that's been going on in the paddock, and whatever the case is, and with his current performance, or with his recent performance. That is a driver that is incredibly frustrated, and he's wanting to prove it, but he's just going about it the wrong way just because he's frustrated.
The
And I
hundred.
think he needs to turn it down a bit. He needs to tone it back. He just needs to get back to the basics and use what he has, and
yeah.
just race clean. And this is the perfect track to reset.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he takes that and actually utilizes it correctly.
That's because it will help. It'll help boost his confidence. But to help
Oh
boost
yeah, 100%.
help
Hmm.
boost other people's confidence, can you give them some tips on how they could gain some time around this track, where they should be trying to maximize the track and all of that forth?
Right. One, believe in your car.
Mm.
You'd be surprised at the amount of downforce these cars have around this track. Like you said, just looking at the track, it doesn't look like Sector 3 is flat.
Yeah.
It is. It didn't look like it to me at first, but I kept going, and every lap I'm like, let's just try lifting off a little bit less here. Okay, let's try lifting off a little bit less. Okay, let's turn in harder. Let's use the car, use the scrubbing to slow the car down enough so that I don't have to lift. Oh, okay, cool, that worked. So it comes down to that. That is also going to be a little bit of a problem. It's probably why I ate through my tires in my race. I was using the tires a lot to scrub off speed, so that I didn't have to brake, I didn't have to lift.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
that's one thing that I can tell you, is that use the scrubbing to slow down the car in Sector 3. And the other thing is, you'd be surprised at how much track you can use. It looks like there's grass. It's not grass. It's almost like rubber that's painted green on the track, and use it. You get more grip coming out of corners, especially if you're coming out of a corner and you're a little bit too hot on the throttle. Use that. It stops your car from spinning up, and it gives you so much time.
Do you think that's a trick the drivers are going to be utilizing over this weekend?
100%. You're going to see. We're going to see one of two things. We're going to
Mhm.
see drivers use track, and we're going to have a repeat of, I think it was Spain, where it was just track limit after track limit after track limit after track limit.
And Austria. Austria had a ton of track
Yeah.
limits.
Mm.
So that's almost something I can guarantee we're going to see quite a few track limits,
Mm.
because that's just how you get the most out of this track. You need to use all of it.
Okay, so track limits as well is going to be a interesting factor for the race, and qualifying actually, because
And qualifying, yes.
oh
Mhm.
we that means a lot of
Yeah.
people are gonna.
It's especially coming into the pit straight, from the last corner. You want to get the best drive out of there, because this is the flat out part of the circuit where you're going to be sitting on that accelerator for what feels like 30 seconds, um, coming down that pit straight, and you're going to want the best drive out of there, and to use that, it's a very deep apex, coming onto the pit straight. So if you overcook that a little bit too much, that invalidates your next lap immediately. And that is the one part of the track that doesn't have a lot of leniency on the curbing.
Okay.
So that's gonna be something that you're probably gonna need out to look out for. But yeah, that's probably going to be the one of the places that they do have track limits, as well as coming out of the second hairpin, we're gonna call it.
Yeah, turn 7.
Um, yes, turn 7. They're probably going to struggle a little bit there because it's almost like almost a double apex. You can kind of say it's like half a double apex.
Okay.
Okay.
So they're also going to be big on the power through there because again you're flat through the next two corners. So the drive out of those corners are going to be very important, and I think that's where track limits are going to occur.
I see. That's gonna be fun. I think hopefully the drivers, at least qualifying, the drivers should make it a bit of a fun and interesting race. I think race-wise, this is going to be a battle won on strategy.
Yeah,
And
and unfortunately, I do think it's going to be a boring race.
mm-hmm.
Just because of the track, and just because everyone's going to be looking after their tires. Everyone's going to be playing the strategy game, and it doesn't make for good racing. But hey, I'd love to be proven wrong.
I think we all do.
Yeah, I think the problem is we're spending too much time watching strategy meetings rather than actual racing,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
a lot of people are doing too much tire management, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of the era of F1 win right now.
Yeah, I think they really need to make the tires less good.
Mm.
Like
Bring back tire wars. I just say
yeah,
bring back tire wars. Just let
exactly.
different bring back different
Bring
manufacturers and
Michelin
let's
back
just,
in, man.
yeah, bring Michelin and Bridgestone, bruh.
Yeah,
But now you
and
see,
like,
Because Bridgestone was the tire that the Ferraris were on when they were winning a lot of championships.
mhm.
Let's see what happens when you bring a variety of different tire compounds and people have to actually figure out how these tires work on the cars.
Yeah, because like imagine you have Bridgestone that comes back with tires that are like half a second faster, but last like five laps less or 10 laps less.
Imagine. That's
Like
proper.
you're going
That's
to
proper. Now I'm interested in
yeah,
seeing how the strategy calls are going to play out, because now you're
exactly.
not all running the same tires. We're all like, it's like Ferraris on Bridgestones, Mercedes is on Goodyear,
And I think the most
Red
important
Bulls
thing that
on
people want to see is
whatever.
the fact that you can't slap on a set of hards and drive the entire race on it.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be a thing.
but now remember, you must also remember
And
that.
if it is a thing, why not just make it a standard? Everybody rocks
Yeah,
the same tire. Let's run.
exactly. Then you take pit stops out of the strategy. Like if you guys
Yeah.
are going to if you're allowed to do the race from hards from the start and you don't have to pit, everyone does it. The racing will become infinitely better.
Yeah.
But also, you need to remember that that's going to make it a little bit more complex for a new watcher, because it goes back to the rainbow tires that we used to have, right? It's like now that we have tire wars, it's like, oh, but now we have, instead of like 12 sets of tires, there's like 16 or 32 different sets of tires that a team could potentially use.
I rate to keep the as in the three colors that we have, but you know, just it'll be Pirelli or it'll be Bridgestone or it'll
Hmm.
be Goodyear, whatever. I get it. It's all for branding for these tire companies, and maybe ramping up tire wars in an extreme way and like bringing back all of the tire manufacturers might be a little complex. Maybe bring in Michelin, maybe bring in Goodyear, maybe just bring in one other tire manufacturer. Yeah, that would be cool. It brings a level of competition again to the actual tire manufacturers, where they're not just sitting there like twiddling their thumbs, developing trash tires, and then saying, "Oh, the tires should have lasted longer."
Wet weather
Hmm.
tires. That's all I'm saying. Is that
They're,
this
they're
year
wasted tires.
this year we've
Wasted
had a
tires.
lot of wet weather racing this year. If you think about it, out of the last few years, we've got quite a few wet races this year, and it's all either been inters and that's it. Like
Yep.
there's been one or two
Yep.
drivers who are like, "Oh, let's try the wets out," but they're undrivable. I know that Pirelli are working on creating a hybrid compound for the seasons going forward, where it's just going to be one wet weather tire that's all encompassing. There won't be this intermediate and wet. It's just going to be a wet weather tire.
Yeah, but the thing I've seen about that is I figured out the reason that drivers don't want to go on wets.
Yeah.
It's because the second you think you need a wet tire, the race gets red flagged.
Facts. Those are facts. That's happened every time this season.
Yeah, it's literally every time someone goes on a full wet, the race gets red flagged. And
Yeah.
now you've lost
And now
all this
you're in.
track position
Mm.
for what?
Yeah.
Just to prove to the FIA that you should probably red flag this race, I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb that tells you to do something that you probably should have done already. And
So-
now just
Yeah.
there my race goes.
I think it's a double-edged sword there, right? It's because partly the drivers have always complained the moment it starts raining that, oh, why are they not red flagging this? Why are they not?
Oh, don't get me started on that. I think
The-
Nash and I share the same thing there, where we're just like, just let them race, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people were doing this way before that. The safety on these cars has gotten so much better that even if they do crash, literally proof of this is Stroll. That crash would have killed whoever was in that car 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yet
Not
they
even
were
20 years
racing.
ago.
They were
Not even
racing.
10 years ago, dude.
Yeah, not
10
even.
years ago.
Exactly.
10 years
Like
ago.
he would have
I
been
mean,
dead.
Yeah, 10 years ago, because I mean, if you look back, 10 years ago was a Sebastian Vettel domination era.
Yeah.
And those cars were dangerous, dude. Those cars were
Yeah.
still dangerous. There were no halos. Those cars were still dangerous.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yes, definitely Stroll would not be with us if that crash had taken
Yeah,
place
so
10 years ago.
Stroll, I think when Zhou got clipped by Russell and got sent cartwheeling into the into the
Yes.
stands, like
Yeah.
stuff like that would have 100% killed drivers 10 years ago.
Bloody hell,
And
dude,
they were
we're
whistling
forgetting we're forgetting the biggest glaring example. Freaking Grosjean.
that
yeah.
too.
That
I
would be-
didn't want to bring that up because that still hurts me.
Yeah. That yeah.
Because
It's still the
that was far
scariest.
too
It's
that was far too
no,
close for comfort.
Yeah, that's the scariest F1 event I've ever seen with my own eyes, bro.
Yeah, because like you saw Stroll's crash and you're like, oh, that would have hurt, but you were never
Yeah.
worried that he wasn't going to get out that car.
Yeah.
With
Well,
Grosjean,
to be honest with you-
we all just sat there and we were just like, does he get up? Is he okay? Does he like that was the one time where the entire world was really, really worried and they were like, does this driver get out of this car?
Yeah, I definitely do agree with you in that sense, but I also do want to point out the fact that I mean Stroll's crash was big.
No, it was.
There were I know when he crashed, it was important for us to take note and say, okay, let's wait for him to get out the car before we start talking about the crash. But yeah, the unfortunate reality is Stroll keeps crashing. There's a lot of potential for them to get rid of the whole wet tires because lately, as Tebow said, they haven't been using the wet tires at all.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think more tire companies, or at least another tire company, just to add some variety and spice, is necessary.
Yeah. No, like I think a few adjustments that they need to do for the cars, for just wet weather racing overall, but make it a standard on the car is additional lights, right? So like if we go and look at the rear of a Formula One car.
Oh, so like just make like old red lights, but now I guess that's ERS. But make something that is more visible, like a brighter ERS light.
Yeah, something like that to just to alert the drivers so that they within the spray, they can tell that, oh, okay, cool, X amount of space is right next to them. That's where the tire is, right?
Yeah.
No, they do that. They do it automatically. So the lights on the back of the car automatically come on when it starts raining. They start flashing.
No. We're talking about giving you an idea of where the car ends. Because you know where the center of the car is.
Yes.
But you can't see where the tire is. So like if you had to put like let's say the wing let's say the wings were longer, right?
Yeah.
You could put lights on either side of the wing so you knew that's where the end of that's where the end of this car is.
Exactly.
So if I go for this move, I know how much space I have because they have no idea when they can't see.
No, fair point.
Exactly that, something like that, and like within the aeronautical field, and as well as in boats, right? They have the colors, right? That tells you which side are you looking at of a car. So if you're looking at a car and you see like red and white, I believe, that means you're seeing the right hand side of it. So just so that you can know as a driver if you are behind them.
Yes.
Oh, the guy is making his turn in. So just that it's extra visual effect so that the drivers can just know what's happening. Because the thing is, getting rid of the spray is going to be nearly impossible, right? FIA is coming up with so many different ideas in this, but the thing is that with the rear diffuser, it's blowing up all of that water that's been pressurized underneath the car. So
Rooster tails.
it's going to be difficult to get rid of the spray regardless. So just give the driver some form of a better indication of where the car is in relation to them, so you can try and make that overtake and try and go for these moves in the wet, and let them, and then like we say, let them race. You know,
Let them fight.
tell them to stop. Like, what's the point of them adding that extra 50 kgs of safety devices and tools into the car if I know it's bad to say if they're not going to use it, but I mean, it's there, right? It's there for a specific reason that
make use of it.
If it goes wrong, it's getting used, and you can technically get more data out of it to see, oh, okay, maybe you overlooked something in terms of the safety, whatever. But it's there, right? There's no point, because if you're always just worried about these types of things, it's like, why add that extra 50 kgs of safety onto the vehicles, right?
Yeah, I think it's just because they're bidding it in the dry.
Probably. So I
Oh
think
yeah, that's kind of one of those things. I think the FIA kind of look at the screen and go, okay, yeah, it's raining. Oh shit, Lance Stroll just had a little off. Yeah, let's stop this race before he bins it again.
Yeah, I think it's you make a very, very valid point there, because I was like, when I did the last wet race, I think it's a little while ago in Canada.
Yeah.
But it's obviously after the Canada race, it was just a random race that I did, and I was genuinely struggling with the with the spray, because you can't see where the left and right wheels are. So you kind of you paint a picture in your head, and you kind of like try and memorize where you saw the last flash of the rain light or the ERS light or whatever the case is, and you kind of gauge an idea. But then in the game, you can't really you don't really get a good sense of how much it's raining. So the spray amount differs, and you don't really you don't have time to be looking at the spray amount when you're coming up to a corner at 200 and whatever k's you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think you pay
300
attention to those sort of details.
Yeah, so you're not going to be paying attention to that. You're just trying to remember each like second that you see this light flashing, and you got to just guess, because you also can't really you can't think for someone else. So if they're gonna try and go defensive, and they make that change within that second that light isn't on, and then all of a sudden you're like, cool, I've now gauged where I'm going to brake, and then that light comes on, all of a sudden they're not where you thought they were, you're in trouble.
Big trouble.
Yeah, or you're either going to crash into them, you're going to run off the track, or you're just going to be 2 seconds slower than you should be, which is probably worse, because the guy behind you who's been following you for 4 laps kind of understands your pace. So now if you're all of a sudden 2 seconds earlier than he thinks then he knows that you have been, that's probably worse.
Yeah.
So it's all of these things come together in, like, for me, just from experience, all of this comes together, and you're in for a really bad time if things aren't consistent, which things can't be consistent when it's wet.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
It really does. But this is a good moment to go on to extra regulations that the FIA are also looking into. 2026's regs, right? We are seeing the removal of the MGU-H, the heat element, to it. To explain roughly to everyone what the MGU-H does is, it stores some of the extra heat energy that gets lost off of the turbo and the engine, and it helps keep the turbo spooled up in the moments when you get off of the throttle, so that the moment you get back on throttle, you still have the right amount of boost to get you out of the corner.
So basically, for all the car people, anti-lag,
right? So now we're getting rid of that, which means we're getting some turbo lag in F1. And so my question to you is, how would you deal with the types of turbo lag that, or at least
Senna's driving style
in this form that we're gonna get in 2026?
Cry.
You're just gonna cry
Profusely. You know when Yuki doesn't finish a race, and he sits on the floor and looks really sad?
Mm-hmm.
That.
Yeah.
That all the time, just that.
Well, look.
Genuinely, they need to bring back the V8 engines because the responsiveness is going to be what's beneficial.
Mhm.
If you throw a hybrid, like an electric hybrid system on top of that V8 engine, or V8, V10, whatever, V8 would be preferable.
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
Yeah,
You're
breaking
talking
everyone's
about electric and hybrid in Formula One, man.
Yo,
Just leave it.
the thing is that these car companies there has to be some sort of correlation for them to be able to keep making it make sense for them on the books, essentially. So, and a lot of the innovations that we've seen in modern day cars have come from Formula One. So we have to keep that in account. And the whole world is going electric. Having a little bit of electricity in the car.
We already do. It's called ERS.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying.
We already
Yeah.
have that before that. It's called a battery. It powers by electronics, by AC, bro.
Okay.
Like,
Do you guys remember the Kerr system?
Yeah.
okay.
Now, I don't particularly like it, but that was a better direction than we've gone now, in my opinion.
Yes. I think it was harvesting power better.
Exactly.
It just made the cars so much heavier.
It did. And but I think the technology's gotten a lot more refined now, and there's potential for it to be better now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ERS does kind of work in a similar fashion. Depending on your braking, you can recharge the batteries more. But it's definitely not nearly as much as Kerr's was.
Yeah.
Yep. So to speak up on more of these things, I'll come back to the electric and side of things.
These are all the what ifs. What are the actual technical regulations?
So
yeah, so if we can just one last thing on the electrical thing.
Yeah.
Or adding electrics into the cars. I'm just going to use this to promote my Only Pain account. If people want to donate, yeah, that'd be nice. Thanks.
Lovely. So with the F1, with the regs, right? So we're getting first of all, decrease in weight of the car, right?
Oh.
So they are looking
If you couldn't hear me, I audibly said, ugh.
Why are you saying ugh? It means they're trying to at least make it car lighter.
Oh, you mean reduce in weight?
Yes,
So they're trying to take weight out.
Yes, they're
Oh,
trying
I
to
heard you say increase.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I heard increase.
Sorry.
So I was like, ugh.
They're trying to decrease the weight of the car within 2026, as well as we are going to a more sustainable fuel, right? Which I don't know how I feel about moving over to sustainable fuel. I love the smell of petrol. I don't know. Maybe I'm an addict
This
or
is my
something.
view. This is my view. If we're going to go to sustainable fuel and it's 100% renewable, bring back V8 engines.
+1.
Yeah.
It's that simple. If we're going back to if we're going to be in a world where they're going to be net zero, that's the goal. If you're trying to be net zero, bring back V8 engines.
Yeah, if it's gonna
Bring
smell
back
like
the noise, bruh.
if the
Jeez.
racetrack is gonna smell like a cornfield, at least be it out of a V8.
Yes, at least make it sound nice.
Or a V10. Can we have V10s back,
Oh,
please?
can we have
V10? Can we have
V12s.
V10s
What?
back?
Why are we thinking small? Give us a
man.
V12 again. Like the V12s
No, the
are a
V10s
dying breed, guys.
The V10s sounded so much better.
Oh, no,
yeah, the
definitely.
V10s were the best sounding F1 cars of all time.
V10s over everything in the F1 world.
Yeah.
I
Granted, I'm not gonna lie to you. The V8s live in my spirit. They are to me personally, those V8s are my favorite sounding engines because I spent so much time listening to them.
They have sentimental value, but that doesn't
There
count.
is a lot of sentimental value to those
that doesn't
V8s,
count
man.
right now.
But the V10s, man.
My whole point is we're already at a war with losing our ice, right? The internal combustion engine, for anyone who doesn't understand. We're losing ice in normal everyday cars, guys. V12 is already almost irrelevant, guys. Like, when last have you heard of a car with a V12 in it? Like, aside from Bugatti.
Lambo made the last one.
Exactly.
No, Bugattis are W16s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bugatti's extra. They like, okay, let's put 4 extra on. I'm talking V12.
But Bugatti is going to go electric for their next car because they have a partnership with Remark, and Remark make the most powerful cars in the world.
I mean, Rimac already makes most of the batteries for the hybrid cars already, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Those batteries are.
Yeah,
Remark has a partnership with the VW group.
Yeah, the second Lambo came out with the Egoista, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. We 100% know what's happening.
What is
We knew what
happening?
was
I don't
coming.
like this. I don't like this. Can I unsubscribe?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, even the Countach has a hybrid system on the V12 as well. So it's not unheard of. Like normal car companies are doing it. If you want to extend the longevity of V12s, that's what Ferrari should be doing. That's what all these car companies that have these kick-ass engines should be doing.
Mhm.
Because don't pretend like you would take a 458 and like you would take anything over a 458 engine. Other like if Ferrari said you can have any other V8 engine or you could have the 458, which one are you picking?
This is a silly question.
Yeah, everyone knows the answer to this. Nobody even needs to say the answer, bro. We know what the
That
answer
flat
is.
plane crankshaft makes angel noises.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
And the dinosaurs that had to die to bring those angel noises
Worth.
out, I thank you for your sacrifice.
Worth.
yeah.
I will feed bunnies into that engine just to make it run.
Hey, I have a
Okay,
bunny.
not
Don't
your
talk about
bunny,
my
not
bunny.
your bunny.
Okay, yeah.
The other
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
the wild
bunnies
ones.
we fine.
Yeah,
wild
ones. Yeah.
bunnies we fine.
Yeah, 100%.
Not my
Okay.
garden rabbit.
To
No,
get
that's
to get back onto point, right? So
right.
one,
Sorry.
we're going to a sustainable fuel, right? So no longer will the cars be running 100 kgs of fuel on board. Now it's going to be 70 kgs, but with only about 3,000 megajoules per hour in terms of energy, which if we look at just the raw numbers and comparing it, right, we are going from essentially 1,200 horsepower, oh sorry, kilowatts, to 833 kilowatts with
You
just
see, that's okay though, because
Yeah.
you said there's a weight drop.
yes,
Yeah,
there is a
if they're
weight.
reducing the weight, that's fine.
Yeah, so your
The
ratio.
your power to weight
Yeah.
ratio will still be on par.
Look,
I wouldn't say it'll be on par because they're going to need to drop 300 or 200 kgs, and that's not going to happen.
no, it's not gonna
Yes, but
happen.
also
So,
keep in
yeah.
mind that they're going to increase the electrical output. So the electrical output should balance it.
That's the thing. I'll come back to the caveat with the electric, which I don't personally like at all, right? So
Okay.
the big thing is that also they're limiting your fuel flow now.
Oh.
Yes, fuel flow is going to be limited now instead of how it's currently being done, where it's based off of density. It's now going to be regulated to a percentage. What that percentage is, they don't have a specific number yet, but they are looking to limit fuel flow rates.
Right. So here's where I'm going to get nerdy, and this is probably why you have me here.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
So here's the problem, right? So you're gonna have now you're basically removing anti-lag, which is now going to not have the turbo spooled up. And let's take the hairpin in Suzuka.
Yeah.
Right. Generally, you're coming out of that corner at the bottom of third. Right. You're coming in. You're going down to second just to get the car to rotate, and then you're coming, and then you're short shifting up to third, maybe fourth, depending on your driving style.
Yeah.
These are
Right,
the
you're gonna
gears. Ladies and gentlemen, you're talking about gears, by the
These are
way.
gears, right? So you're coming down to second gear to get the car to rotate. You're jumping up to third, maybe fourth gear to keep the traction under control. You're not you're in a Formula One car. You're prioritizing traction over getting your foot down fast because that turbo's spooling up regardless, and you're always kind of in boost, so you're not really going to feel the lag. Problem here with turbos that aren't spooled up coming out of low speed corners, you're going to have nothing, and then you're going to have everything. So if you're not modulating the throttle, that car is going to you're going to be facing backwards real quick fast, right?
Yep.
So then to combat that, you're going to have to now go around that corner in second, and you're going to have to stay in second. This means you're now asking more of the engine because at higher RPMs you are basically asking the engine to pump in more fuel and more air.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this has a really bad knock-on effect if they're now reducing that fuel flow rather, and reducing the amount of fuel. There's a whole knock-on effect here on a car's performance. Longevity of parts is going to be a really, really big thing if this change does happen, because you're basically going to be take your average everyday car.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
do you change out of first? Generally between like 2,000 to 3,000 RPM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine sitting and going to 5 every time you go around a corner.
Oh. No ways.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be doing to F1 cars.
Uh,
The longevity of those motors and the gearbox and the clutches, and it's all going to go to the dogs. Like, that is going to, if anything, that's going to bump up the amount of money that teams are spending, that F1 as a sport ends up spending, because then you're going to go
and the
from
reality and the
like
reality
six
is they still have.
engines.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
You,
no, go ahead, please.
Sorry.
you're going to land up going, I think, Tibo, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, they've got like 5 or 6 engines,
Yeah.
5 or 6 gearboxes, and whatever the case is. You're going to bump that up to like 10. So now you need to think about the production costs and the emissions making those extra parts, the wear and tear, and where those things go when they're done, the transport and shipping costs. Like, this all just turns into a massive nightmare, because you now want to make the cars a bit slower because we're now using some other fuel.
Yeah. So
This doesn't. I don't see the upside here.
so right now, there's a very the FIA aren't completely dead set on what the limit is going to be, but it is a limit on energy flow, mass flow, as well as uh, the oxygen flow. So there's a whole big thing where, hey, there's a big algorithm and maths that needs to be done by them, because it really doesn't look as great in terms of everything overall. Because I mean, like
Like,
you said, a team like Williams, they're going to struggle now
yeah,
to order 10 engines from Mercedes when they just needed to order maybe 6 or 7.
exactly. Like, one of two things is going to happen. These cars are going to get slower,
Mm-hmm.
and very, very much slower. We're talking like 3 seconds over a lap slower.
Wow, that's a lot in F1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's probably for your like mid-range cars. I think Red Bull and Adrian Newey are still gonna find 2 seconds on that.
That's a
Yeah,
zero
most
net.
Um,
That's a low.
but yeah, so they're probably gonna, like, Red Bulls are probably gonna lose a second, maybe more, depending on the track, or costs are going to go up. Activists around the world are gonna go bananas, and they're going to FIA is gonna have this for like half a year or a year, and then make more changes.
No, definitely. So
I think they'll probably start to make changes before we even get there.
Yeah, I don't think I look. I am not a scientist. I don't know the ins and outs of what exactly is going on here, and what it entails, and what the repercussions are. But just from the surface, cars are going to go through parts much faster. They're going to end up burning a lot more, and they're going to be a lot slower.
I do agree with that, and this is where I
Yeah.
wanted to get onto the electrical part, right? Of the because airflow and fuel flow is it's madness on what the changes that they're going to be looking at there is, but the battery is now getting increased from 120 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts, right? Which is roughly
I
about.
take back everything I said. These cars are actually going to be faster.
No,
Yeah.
listen to me, right? Look,
See,
go for it, Nash.
explain the details, Tivo, because I need more information.
You need more. Okay, so over a given lap, right?
Mhm.
You can only produce about there's a certain limit of it. I just need to check here quickly. Oh, you can only use about 20 megajoules or regain 2 megajoules per lap. That's currently, right?
Okay.
And now with this you can get 9 megajoules, but the other thing is, let's say take Bahrain straight, right? If you are sitting on like using overtake, right? You
Yeah.
have at max 30 seconds before you dump before the battery's completely empty.
Okay.
So and then you have to go around the whole lap trying to recharge the whole battery. Oh, sorry, I lie. It is currently it's 33 seconds to dump the whole battery, right? With this new rigs,
Okay.
it's gonna be 11 seconds with the 350 kilowatts to
Wait,
dump
you
the
can dump all 300. You can dump all of that
all of
in
the
11
energy in
seconds.
11 seconds, which means if we're looking at Baku, right, they're gonna
Uh
have
huh.
basically almost no energy by the time they reach the end.
Mm.
which is it's going to be essentially a bit of a problem there, which you're going to end up losing power. And this is where I was thinking, like, potentially teams like Mercedes, they came up and with the MGUK in to begin with. No, H, sorry. And what they most likely will try to do is again create another form or method to get the energy to spool up the turbo to just
Yeah.
help prevent that turbo lag to begin with, because number one, the teams don't want to blow through turbos like that, right? And it is, yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts? Yeah, I just think that overall the usage of the battery is, especially if you get up to 350, the max top speed, you're going to burn through your energy.
There's only one way that I think that this could be viable,
Mm-hmm.
is substitute the turbo lag for that battery.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I thought that they were going to do. You're going to essentially torque fill with the electric energy.
So basically, you don't have the turbo lag, but
Yeah.
you're using minute amounts of that battery all the time.
Yeah, just to fill in those gaps when the turbo is spooling up. That makes a lot of sense. Whereas it doesn't make sense like the way you've explained it.
No, that's just it's not.
I mean, it's the deployment. I understand.
Yeah.
But
If you
I don't-
choose to
I don't-
use it all, that's
yeah,
the
you can.
comparison to ERS now,
Yeah.
as opposed to that proposed solution. But I think the smarter play would just have it come out in little bits and pieces throughout the lap to circumvent the lag that
Yeah.
this is now going to introduce.
Right.
I mean, Ferrari and McLaren already have experience with this because they built the LaFerrari and the P1, so they could do it. Why not do it again?
Oh, so here's the thing, is that they've increased how much capacity you have, or how much kilowatts you have available.
They've
But
decreased the capacity.
don't increase. We went from 120 kilowatts to 350 with the new
Yeah,
one.
no, they've increased the power, but they've decreased the capacity.
Yeah.
Because we went from 30 seconds to 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me get back to the whole sentence again, right? Is overall the cars use 1.1 kilowatts per hour, right? Divided by 120 kilowatts times by the 30 times by the seconds per hour. It's essentially Charles Leclerc on his Baku lap, right? Just qualifying alone, because that's when you're going to use the battery and dump it, right?
Mhm.
He spent on that straight 22 seconds, right? And currently, if you were to try dump the whole battery right now in the current Formula One cars, it would take you 33 seconds to dump the whole battery, which in a qualifying, that's perfectly fine. Charles will have enough battery for that, right? But now, in 2026, at 11 seconds, halfway down the straight, essentially, he's going to run out of battery before he even hits the start finish, which is a big problem. And Max has voiced this problem before, right? He doesn't like this direction that they're going because it's just not not feasible, because you're going to end up losing the whole battery. Like, imagine you're like going 350 kph but with the battery on, and then you're going to lose freaking 350 kilowatts all of a sudden. The drag's just going to start pulling you back further and further, and then you're going to lose who knows amount of time.
You'll drop about 20 to 30 Ks.
Exactly.
And it'll happen fast.
That's not good.
I honestly don't think that is a good direction for Formula One specifically, because
Yeah.
And here's another thing to add into this. Let's say you're doing the top speed that the car can do without this battery. Let's call it 330.
Yeah.
And now you activate this extra 300 kilowatts. What's that going to do to the gearbox?
Oh,
wow.
You think it's going to like that?
definitely
No.
not.
You think it's viable for that gearbox to be alive for the entire race?
Not at all.
That's just one race. Now they've got 20 something.
24 races or 23.
So you're going to look at a gearbox every race or gearbox every 2 races.
So what they need to
not
do
even
is they need to go to Christian von Koenigsegg and ask him for his magic tiny gearbox that he
the
has
dark matter.
that has all the
The
all
dark matter
the
box. Yep.
yeah, the dark matter box that has all the gears primed at the same time, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah,
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 look at
and
that's
the
what they need.
like the Regera box. That's
Yeah,
never
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
have
yeah,
an
yeah,
issue
yeah.
because it basically doesn't end.
Yeah.
yeah, um, there's going to be and like
Yo, Christian von Koenigsegg should be an F1, guys.
he'd cook up
He-
something crazy.
Start a
I think.
team. Let's go get him because we have a driver. We've got Swizz. We've got me and Tebow as race engineers. We're done. We're ready.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah,
Of
sub us in,
course,
bro.
like we'll do some phenomenal things, right? Um, as well as just like overall with the whole package and all, they're going to be 20 kgs lighter because of the fuel, which means also the laps that can be done is going to be reduced, right? So we're no longer going to see 2 hour long races, right? We're going to see shorter races because we're not going to manage, the cars aren't going to manage to go around the whole track and still have a liter of fuel left after the race so that the FIA can test that they are using like a E20 fuel.
I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it.
But remember, if they're using like ethanol, some of that's just going to vaporize out into the fucking air and it's
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
Now they're gonna get teams are gonna get punished because you don't have the 1 liter of fuel that's supposed to be left in the tank for us to test.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. I'm 100% on board with shortening the races.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It makes
so
it
am I.
more exciting. I think someone like Max is basically getting bored for 20 laps, like being
Yeah.
20 seconds ahead of other people. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's just it's not really exciting unless Singapore. But how often does that happen? It's one in 20 something races actually.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing for the races to be shorter. Like, make it a sprint and a half long. Like, people are still going to be exciting. Like, the racing will be better. You're not going to be bored watching Max disappear into the distance. Like, it's not going to
Yeah.
break other drivers' spirits because you see him and then all of a sudden, like 2 laps later, he's gone. And now you
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
deal with being on your own for another 40, 50 laps. Like, it's not fun for anyone at that point.
Yeah, it really isn't.
So yeah, I'm 100% okay with the races being shorter. It'll make for one better entertainment. They probably, I don't know if they are going to lose money because it's in a shorter time slot. I think if anything they'll get more money because people are going to be like, we're not going to have to sit here for 2.5 hours and watch one driver win and every now and then see a battle or two.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, okay, cool, an hour and a half, and it's going to be more exciting because then you can have. Then at that point, you can have the FIA be like, listen, if you're going to start on hards, you don't have to pit. And people are going to be like, huh, okay, this is interesting. And then you have everyone start on hards, and then you see a proper race. And it's not down to pit strategy. It's not down to undercuts and overcuts.
Or
Like,
you see
that's,
everyone start on hards. You see one person start on mediums, one person's on softs, and you're like, oh, what's gonna
yeah.
happen now?
Yeah, exactly. Then it's just like, oh, okay, this is exciting. This guy's going to get
Yeah.
ahead, and he's
Yeah.
going to blitz past everyone. And
And he
as soon as,
better.
and when he's about to pit, he can see the guy in last place already, like in
Yeah.
front of him, and he's like, okay, cool, this is now exciting.
It definitely is. And man, I'm just thinking because I'm looking here on the actual F1 page, right, of what are the current changes that are coming in. And point number 5 they make is lower costs. But I think that's a complete lie because
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to lower costs any more than they already have.
not even just that, but the thing is, in order for innovation to happen, you're going to have to spend quite a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
with the current budget, it's going to be a thing where Mercedes, Ford, Audi, okay, Audi's lucky, right? They get to
Yeah,
start
'cause they
building the
knew.
engine
Yeah.
basically now, right? They can look at the stuff and start grafting away at it. Teams like Mercedes, Red Bull with Ford, okay, Ford could probably get away with it as well, but Honda, they're already
Well,
in
Red Bull can because they are a new the Red Bull powertrain,
will be a new manufacturer.
whatever RBT, whatever that they can because they're a new engine manufacturer, so they have sort of circumnavigated that and they're able to continue with their development in terms of engine development. So they don't have that problem. Audi doesn't have that problem. Mercedes and Ferrari
Ferrari.
definitely have that problem. So
Audi.
does Renault.
Yeah, they've got a big problem on their hands. That look, we are not. The other teams are getting an extremely unfair advantage. Fair enough, they need to catch up to what F1 can do right now, right?
Mm.
But the other part is that time that they're catching up is easy development for them in terms of, oh, do you have, they could find a new way to solve like turbo lag, for example, for their drivers, right? Because I clearly see some of the teams are gonna struggle with turbo lag, especially that first race, Bahrain. Mind you, it will probably be one of the most exciting races we will have in F1 because whole new regs that changes quite a bit, and you never know where the teams are going to be at that point. And I mean, if you look at it, just earlier today, McLaren's new wind tunnel is officially online.
Yes,
That's exciting.
that's such excitement.
So, couple they like I don't know. I feel like these engine regulations they are going to hurt, and to compare them to these cars that we have now it's impractical because we will lose way too much time to it.
Yeah, I think also just with Audi coming in and developing their own engine, they have almost infinite resources
Exactly.
because they're part of the VW Audi group. That means
Yeah.
Bugatti is involved,
Yeah.
and like they have all these resources, and they can definitely circumvent the turbo lag issue.
But
They have all these assets at hand where they can just be like, how do we do this? How do we do that?
it,
And
So,
speaking of which, they also the VW Group also has a partnership with Remark, who builds batteries. So
yeah,
they, yeah, it's a very good look for Audi in the sense that if it's properly backed by the VW Group, it just they are the boogeyman essentially.
yeah.
the other teams should definitely be scared of them
Yeah,
coming into something like this.
But
yeah,
another point I want to make is just overall the budget, right? Audi, they're not in F1 right now. They're not being forced to fall in line with the budget cap,
They
and
can spend billions on this engine,
yeah,
yeah,
and then when that engine comes in with all this R&D behind it, they've basically spent what the other teams have spent 5 years in 2 years.
yeah,
exactly.
And they can come in and be like, okay, cool, we have this, and it's a great starting motor. It's got everything we need. It's basically future proofed because they've got all this time to figure it out, and they've
yeah.
spent all that money, and they've got the right people, and they've got the right resources in it. They're going to be in such a good spot where they can just be like, you know what, we're going to be so far under the cost cap because we don't really need to do as much as everyone else has to do, and they can spend that R&D everywhere.
Especially with Adrian Sutil as their not Adrian Sutil,
Andreas Seidel.
what's his name? Andreas Seidel as their team principal slash CEO. I mean, you look at the job he managed to pull off with McLaren before he left, and I know they're benefiting from a lot of the steps that he put in, and that's what they're benefiting from, a lot of those steps like the wind tunnel and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be really good for them, especially having him around.
I think the FIA is definitely going to, for lack of a better word, nerf Audi a little bit. I think they're going to have some sort of like hidden cost cap where they can't make use of all this time and all their resources to the extent that we're talking about here. I don't think that'll be fair to anyone. I think someone like Toto will throw his toys out the cart about that.
No,
Absolutely,
I
And I
absolutely.
totally agree with it. Like
Yeah,
they should be nerfed.
this is where I think the one thing that the FIA has done right so far, right, is things like the fuel that must be used for the vehicle, as well as airflow and fuel flow limits, right, have
yeah.
been kept hush hush, right? No team
Okay.
knows about it, nor do we even know about what those limits are going to be. I think it's best for them to hold out those limits until 2025 rolls around, and possibly at the start of 2025 be like, "Hey guys, this is the limits that we're going to set, and you may now proceed to build your engine, right? That way, it
Mm.
gives a much fair advantage to a team like Mercedes and Ferrari, as well as Renault, to combat other teams who have much bigger budgets because they're not going to be constrained. Hopefully, the FIA do constrain everyone else to say, maybe only you have 500 million to figure. I know it's a big ass number for an engine, but like you have 500 million, build your engine with that. Whether Renault has that type of money, I don't know. I know for a fact Mercedes does.
No, Renault are only worth 900 million. They do not have 500 million to throw around.
Exactly. So maybe something a lot smaller in terms of number
Well,
than
I
that.
think it should be around 200 to 250 because the current cost cap, I think, is like 160 or something. So if it's 160 million for in the cost cap, maybe double that in order, double that for engine production for teams that don't have engines essentially or haven't developed an engine for the 2026 season. So, or rule change essentially. So, yeah, that's an option.
That definitely can be another option that that is there. So uh, we will see. We definitely have to see what the FAA comes up with because it's scary if they're going to allow a team like Ford and Red Bull, what else, as well as Audi, to just produce an engine right now and then can continuously work. Like, I mean, right now, I'm pretty sure Mercedes have to be thinking about what is an alternative to a turbo lag in terms of the regulations that they have right now. I know Ferrari should be doing the same. If they are not thinking of this, I think it's going to be a very big flop.
No, trust me, they are.
It definitely it will be. Right. I want
Judging
to.
by how Ferrari deal with strategy, I'm not too sure. I live in a lot of fear and doubt for Ferrari these days, bruh. Because you just sit there and you go, man, are they going to get this shit right, or they're just going to mess it up all over again?
Yeah, that is gonna be an interesting look at. A next topic I want to kind of go on to here was that it was recently announced, like I believe 4 or 5 hours ago, the FIA has accepted Andretti's application to bid into F1. They now
That is an absolute shock to me. I heard that was still being discussed, but I didn't know it was actually confirmed.
it has just been confirmed that
That is brilliant because that's a good move. That's a good move for F1. Number one, we need more teams because
mhm,
there is a plethora of young drivers that deserve opportunities in F1. So that is really important. I think getting more teams in the sport is absolutely vital. I think bringing in a person like Andretti, who's got relations in not just motorsport but F1, it's so good. It's such a good look because the direction that the FIA had been and Formula One specifically had been discussing is they only wanted car manufacturers. So it would be like teams like Toyota or whatever. But Formula One was built on teams like Benetton, like Ferrari, like McLaren, like Williams, like those teams, Lotus, built from people who love racing and built a race car.
that
So I love the fact that Andretti is back is in the sport and he's actually going to have an opportunity to build a race car. That is amazing.
it's freaking lovely to see. I 100% agree. Um, One thing you brought up, it sparked an idea is with, like we say, turbo lag and all of this feathering of the throttle, it's going to really expose a lot of the pay drives, Lance Stroll, in their capabilities, right?
You forgot to cough when you said his name.
Right? There's the cough. It was a little bit delayed, but
Yes, yeah, yeah, just like Lance.
it's really going to put a hard knock on the rookies who are going to end up joining, right? Because I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. I doubt in F2 they have MGUH in the vehicles, right? But maybe they might actually have something. I don't know. Maybe if some F2 driver might be another Oscar Piastri and come out the woodworks being a go-to driver. but I think it's going to be a big
I've got
struggle for them.
I've got two youth prospects that I could tell you about right now.
I'm talking within the 2026 regulations that's going to hit, right? We still need to see how the cars play out in that space.
I'm just saying, I've still got two drivers that should definitely be in F1 by that time.
Okay. Would you like to share who the two drivers are?
Okay, the first driver, he's a Ferrari Academy boy. His name is Oliver Berman. He's 18 years old, absolute lightning in a bottle. Won basically every category he's competed in. He's currently in F2. He's won races already. He's a really competitive driver. Lovely, lovely to watch. Also, he's one of the drivers that has a lot of team support from Ferrari seniors. So that's a really high mark, considering the fact that that Charles' brother Arthur Leclerc is also racing in F3 and isn't getting the same looks and attention that Oliver Berman is. That's a good look. Then there's another kid named Andrea Kimi Antonelli. This kid, oh man, remember that name, Kimi Antonelli. This boy, oh my lord. He's won in every category. He's won in 50% of the races he's competed in.
Oh wow. That is an impressive
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has got everybody who's seen him race has said the same thing. Kid's only 17 years old, but everybody that's seen him has said, yeah, this kid is the future. And he's a Mercedes Academy boy. I expect we'll see him in F3 next season because he is driving for Prema and he raced in Italian F3, which he won this season. So I expect we'll see him in F3.
Okay. That is interesting. I got some more little rumors that's going on. It is understood that Daniel Ricciardo is to be Red Bull's first option to replace Perez in 2024, right? So, we're talking replacements, right? Mm-hmm. And there are currently 14 drivers whose contracts will end in 2024. I must confirm with the 14th. I'm not 100% sure if Logan signed a 2-year or another 1-year contract. Most likely another 1 year.
He signed, I believe it's a 1 year.
It's a 1 year, so that means his contract will end as well in 2024. So
no, it's not. It's he hasn't signed a contract for 2024. His contract is technically to be decided. It's a 1-year deal for 2023. So 2024 is still up in the air for him.
No, it's confirmed. If you go and look on the on the actual F1 Instagram account, it's confirmed that Sargent is driving for Williams for next year. You know the graphic they put up with each team and the drivers. It used to be that there was an empty spot for him, and it's now been filled in that he is driving. Just go have a look. I think it's a crime because Liam should really have a seat. But Williams seem to believe in Sargent and want to give him a bigger chance.
Believe in what? What do they see? What do they see that I don't see?
I don't know. But
I'm not saying it like I have a better eye than everybody else, but I'm one of those people that like I've picked a lot of drivers that have been good, and I don't see it in this guy at all.
I hear you, but it might be a thing that Liam doesn't have as much financial backing as Logan might have. I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm just saying
Williams
that could be a
come
potential.
out and said that they don't need money anymore. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Hey, bro. Yeah, you might say you don't need money, but money runs the sport. Let's be real.
No, it does. I don't disagree with that.
Can easily help along the way. Whether you have more, that could be a very compelling reason why Williams has chosen to stick with Logan. Note, this isn't a real choice by James Vowles. He got to Williams after they made the decision to initially take Logan. So he's just sitting with that as it is right now. But we know that at least, right? Liam...
I'm not seeing any official confirmation that Logan's got his seat.
Is it not good? Because if I go to the Instagram page, I'm pretty sure I saw that It's right there. One of the posts was showing he was part of the team. Yeah. So if you go look at the driver lineup, it's filled in for everyone. Oh no, it still says 2023 for him.
Yeah,
2023. Okay, so
yeah, yeah.
yeah, correct.
He's not
Still,
he's not confirmed
it's
because
still up
that
there.
was my understanding is that they haven't officially confirmed it, and by any means, if they do, that oh man, to be honest with you, that's one of those moves that if they say yes, we're bringing him back, they're not serious.
But the thing is, he's more likely because the thing is, Liam Lawson is unlikely to join Williams
That's
on a loan.
fine. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But there are other drivers that you can put in that seat that is not Logan Sargent.
Yeah,
Number one choice, we've got Mick Schumacher. Number two, you've got Felipe Dragovic. Two drivers you could put in the car. Two drivers that have won multiple world that have won F2 and F3.
yeah.
So I don't want to hear about Logan Sargent. Tell me when he's won anything of note. Like I said, the kid last won a thing in karting. That's the last time he won.
It is a tough decision for Williams to make. I
No,
agree
it's
with
not a
you.
tough decision. It's not a tough decision. It's a stupid decision if they actually re-sign him.
It's look. This is why we are not there. They are there because they're making dumb decisions for themselves, right? I know. We both know we would have done a Nick de Vries probably earlier
Yeah, 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 yeah,
with that position, right?
yeah, yeah.
But we spend too much time on Logan, right? We,
Yes,
we all know. Let's look at to the other 13 drivers that are available. Daniel Ricciardo, right?
yes, indeed.
He is first in line for that Red Bull seat, right? First in line, and it's really for me. It looks like it's a thing for if Danny performs at least for this year,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's remained of this year. It is a bigger thing of it is Sergio Perez's place to lose the seat.
Yeah. Well, Sergio's locked in for next year, so he doesn't. I mean, it's not. He doesn't have to worry. He
He does.
definitely does. But he's locked in for next year at least. So that gives him a sort of sense of security that he's, and also I believe that there's a clause in his contract that says that he can't be swapped out to the AlphaTauri team.
Yeah.
But that also does mean that this could put, well, next season could potentially be Checo's grand sending off
Yeah.
because there are no available positions, I think, unless Williams are going to bring in Checo to pair Alex Albon, which I'm not against, but I don't know how much Checo would want to be a number two driver to Alex Albon.
Yeah. I don't think Checo wants to stay as a number two driver. He really wants to be a number one driver. But
Yeah, but if you want to be a number one driver, where are you going to go? You're not going back to Aston slash Racing Point slash
Force
Force
India.
India slash whatever it's been over the past decade, essentially Team Enstone. You're not going back there because of the way they treated you when they booted you out. Audi is a bit of a up in the air situation because I think they're going to go Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Vettel because that's a really good pairing.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
Carlos is. I think Carlos is confirmed there.
Yeah, I think Carlos is confirmed, and I think a good bet to bring Seb back would be really amazing.
It definitely would be. But um, the only other potential place where he could be in at the end of 2024, right, is a Ferrari boy, right? Because if you look at it, both contracts of the
Hmm.
Ferraris are up at the end of 2024, right?
Yeah,
So there is a potential move to Ferrari that is available, but I still don't think Ferrari would pursue Perez. It doesn't seem like a
no,
Ferrari move to pursue Perez.
no. I think Ferrari would be because Alex Albon's also available in 2024. I think Ferrari should go for Alex. If I'm being honest, that's a good move. Good driver, someone that I races. Um, a lot of consistency, able to build a team around him, able to move a team forward. got a good head on his shoulders. He's articulate. Yeah, he's the right guy. He's the right guy. I do also think that there's a high likelihood Oliver Berman it becomes the new Charles Leclerc, essentially. So they'll hang on to Charles. Charles will be the veteran that's supposed to steer the development of the car, and then they're going to bring Oliver Berman in as the rookie in order to learn from him. I think that's one of the best moves that they can make because Oliver's really quick.
Definitely.
Either that or Robert Schwartzman, because I'm not against having him in the sport either. He's super competitive too.
It is the rookies are available. That is one thing I can say for sure, and we've got
Yeah.
a magnitude of them awaiting. So let's check. Sergio Perez, right? Let's go through all of their availabilities. Sergio had there's a spot at Ferrari he could potentially get. Uh, Aston Martin, there's
The thing is, if he goes to Ferrari, he's not going to be the number one driver.
that is true, right? But I'm talking
So
overall just
that
positions
so,
because
yeah, it's a lateral move. The thing is, he's only got lateral. I mean, not it's not even lateral because Red Bull's at the top of the food chain right now. Everything after this move is just a move backwards. But worse still is that he can go really backwards, kind of like Valtteri going from fighting for pole positions to now fighting just to get into Q3.
it is a thing. There's two Ferrari seats open. Okay, let's go through first. Yeah, so
Okay, go
far
ahead.
there's one Red Bull seat that opens up with Sergio Perez. So let's put a Red Bull down. Then, as well as there's an Aston Martin seat. We then have the two Ferrari seats that are available. We then have the both Alpine seats are available. The Haas seats which are available, which I think that those seats already we know what's happening there.
We'll see. Because I mean, yes, maybe for 2025, they'll be locked in, but they'll most likely only get maybe a 1 to 2 year deal. Because at that point, Magnussen and Hulkenberg are both really old,
Yeah,
and you need to move. That's why I think Haas are making a mistake. They don't have a younger driver or a rookie-ish driver to help move the car forward, and they're not. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to yield what they want long term, because now you're going to be in a situation where you have to replace both your drivers, and you're most likely going to have to replace them with rookies, or you're going to beg Checo to come into your team, or you'll have to beg Valtteri or someone like that to come into your team. But it's honestly not a good look. They don't have There's no sense of continuity there. It feels like, yes, okay, they keep Hulk and Kevin, but what then?
what
You know,
happens after? Hmm.
because it's not. No disrespect to either of those drivers, it doesn't seem like the car's developing that much. But again, it's because Haas have no money and are not putting upgrades on the car. We'll see what they look like in Austin, but again, it's just it leaves you with a weird taste in your mouth, because you're just like, okay, both of these drivers are in their 30s. There's no sense of continuity happening going forward. So, like, the thing that you're trying to avoid is having two rookies in your car, but by consistently having two drivers that are in their mid to late 30s, you're essentially shackling yourself to a future where you'll have two rookies. Why not now, when you're already experiencing a massive amount of pain, to put a rookie in the car? Hopefully not one that crashed as much as your other rookies, but like, put
Yeah.
a rookie in the car.
You wanted to say
And
Mick. You know you wanted to say
yeah,
Mick.
no, I did. But also Mazepin also did
Oh,
his thing.
yeah.
I mean, so I think they are making a relative mistake. I think what would be interesting is maybe Guan Yu Zhou at Haas in the future. But then that's a Chinese driver driving for an American team. I don't know how that's going to work politically, but you know,
It's gonna be interesting. Um, so to 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 see. Okay, we then have the horses, right? There's oh shoot,
yeah.
I didn't even put that down. That the one Williams seat of Alex Albon is also
Yes,
available.
Alex Albon's also available. That's
right?
why I was saying in 2024 it might be a good move for Ferrari to go for Alex because, hey man, that's a dude. He's a quick dude and he's also pretty young.
So here's the thing, right? Are you going to then sacrifice Carlos Sainz for that 1 year? And so like, let's say this, right?
Essentially
Ferrari,
bed Carlos in at Alfa Romeo for a season before they become Audi. I would prefer to do that, yes, because
that's your
then at
choice.
least he knows the team, he knows his people, and then he also knows where the car is before the change, and then you'll be able to help develop the car further. I think it would be beneficial.
So beneficial. Carlos Sainz moves to Alfa Romeo, sits in the horrible car for a year,
I
and
mean, no, not beneficial for it. I don't know if it will be beneficial for
beneficial
him to
Audi.
like that much. I think obviously he'd want to stay in a more competitive car, but I don't know what
Wait,
exactly Ferrari are doing.
see, the thing is, like, in overall, in terms of like, if you were to say Alex moves to Ferrari, right, which is a big jump for
Hmm.
Alex, right,
Yeah,
is then to say it's obviously one of the two, Carlos or Charles. Carlos goes to Alfa Romeo, right? He
yeah,
suffers for a year,
yeah,
and then has to pray that Audi can nail the regs the next year, which
yeah,
I honestly think is it's a very hard ask, because then you would what if I was Audi then, right? I would
yeah.
tell Alpha to then get Carlos under at least a 3 year contract. But to get Carlos under a 3 year contract without him having an exit clause that's gonna be a flippin'
No,
damn
no,
good exit clause would be
yeah.
quite difficult.
Mhm.
And I feel the most likely option, right, is that Ferrari are going to stick with the two boys,
Mm.
right? Ferrari's gonna take Carlos, keep him, and keep Charles. But then someone like Sergio's gone. I don't think Sergio's staying in the sport. That's my unfortunate thoughts, right? Is that
Okay.
Sergio's he's gonna be out. He is not going to have a seat, and Danny Rick is back into that Red Bull, right?
Okay.
It's Danny Rick's back into the Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda is unfortunately going to stay in the AlphaTauri until the end of 2025, and
Yeah.
he's just getting a 1 year contract, so he's staying at AlphaTauri as well.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Haas's situation is it's a very tricky thing because
Who are you partnering with Yuki though? Before we move on to Haas, are you bringing Liam Lawson back and you putting Yuki and
oh
Liam together?
oh hell yeah, I am bringing
Yeah.
Liam back, and the sad reality is that they are putting Liam. They didn't want to put Liam in, right? And it was a thing that it was announced that Danny's gonna keep driving before Liam had that brilliant showing in Japan where he showed that he was faster than Yuki, right?
Yeah, the reality for that situation is really hectic because if Danny comes in and he can't beat Yuki
At all.
on his comeback, that's going to be a real. I mean,
If
number one, that's going to be really good for Liam. Liam's probably going to feel over the moon, but that's going to be a really heavy blow to the Red Bull group because what do you do then if Danny's not quicker than Yuki?
if Danny is not quicker than Yuki, the option, this is how I see Red Bull would play it, right? Is that they they should put Danny just straight into the Red Bull,
Yeah, I agree with that.
because the thing is that one, that AlphaTauri is not what the Red Bull is, right? And you need
Mm,
Danny
mm,
essentially in the Red Bull
mm.
to acclimatize to it, which is where I think it was the wrong move from Red Bull to sign Danny to the AlphaTauri, right? I think they should have kept Danny as the Red Bull reserve driver and put Liam
I
straight in. Here's
I
why.
don't, I understand where you're coming from, but having seat time is really important.
I do agree having seat time is really important, but here's the other thing is Danny will be acclimatized to the simulator, which I mean he's probably doing simulator work already for
Hmm.
part for Checo, because we know Max does his own sim work. He doesn't let anyone else do it. but as well as then Danny gets a minimum of 2 seat times driving the Red Bull itself. So he will
Yeah.
get
Okay.
a somewhat of a core understanding of what the Red Bull is capable of and what it can do, right? And that stays as the thing against Perez. It plays against Perez's favor because Perez doesn't want someone that's a threat to his seat. I think Perez operates a lot better under a calm and relaxed environment than this high intensity environment where his seat is on the line and he's not sure what he's going to be doing next. So I think missed
Yeah.
opportunity from Red Bull and entirely from my side, but we'll have to see. Red Bull do have a revolving door sitting with them, if you could call it that, and trading in and out, who goes in, who goes out. It's gonna be a tough challenge for them. The other drivers,
Yeah.
Nico Haas is the biggest problem child out of everybody, because I see that Haas will just have to sign the drivers again, unless they're willing to take on another rookie driver, which I still think, until Haas changes their overall environment in the way to teach a rookie, I see it's going to be a very hard ask. The bigger actual blow is actually to Ferrari, if you think about it like this. Alfa Romeo has
Uh-huh.
always been their sister team to feed the next Ferrari driver. Charles came from Alfa Romeo, and that's
Well,
what they were trying
let's
to
be
do.
honest.
They
That's
had
only happened once. It's
no
only
def,
happened once.
they def,
So I don't think it works out in the same way. I mean, maybe with the Antonio Giovinazzi, but he's a reserve driver for Ferrari mostly because he's Italian.
yeah,
So but let's not discredit him because I think he did win at Le Mans.
yeah,
He's been really competitive outside of F1, which just shows you the level of that you can be mediocre in F1 and go win championships elsewhere. If you look at Brendan Hartley, mediocre in F1, won world championships in WEC.
yeah,
So there are levels. So I think Guan Yu Zhou at Haas doesn't sound bad because he's good, he's consistent, he's what Mag and Nico Hulkenberg were maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago or so. Good midfield driver.
yeah. I do agree. Guan Yu Zhou could be a good potential for Haas up next, but then it's a question of who do they swap out. I think it's most likely Kevin who gets taken
I
out,
agree.
and
Yeah,
then Zhou gets put into his seat. Nico gets signed for another year into 2025, whereby 2026 again, it's gonna be a big round shake-up in terms of whether I think the bigger problem is when Lewis Hamilton retires, right? Because the moment a Mercedes seat opens is when, oh, or at least I want to say when a top team, when a Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull seat open, and if you look at it, we have two of the scenarios there: Red Bull and a Ferrari, and two Ferrari seats are open.
mm.
Um, it's going to be a big thing. I think the catalyst is going to be whether the lower things. Here's a curveball, right? Here's a curveball.
Hmm.
Fernando to Red Bull. I know. Red Bull won't do it purely because
Yeah,
it's not a good formula to have two drivers who are that hungry for a championship to be next to each other. You don't want the Nico Lewis rivalry again to happen. It's just a good. You need a good
avoid at all
second
costs.
driver. You need a good second
Yeah,
driver in there. But with Fernando's contract also being up, right? He can either choose sign again with Aston Martin and hope that next year has better development, or I mean, no, he would have. He's already signed right now. Is signed with them again after whatever we see happens in 2024,
yeah.
and hope. for the best or retire and then open up seats. But then that leaves Esteban, Pierre, and Alex. Okay, I'm saying this. Valtteri Bottas retires. I'm just getting that out the way. Unless Haas wants to put him
I
in.
don't mean to sound mean, but I hope so. I don't mean to sound mean because I do have a soft spot for Valtteri, but I really do hope so. He's been on holiday mode for
Half the
a
year.
whole season, it feels like more than a season. I don't know how many times we've said it on race day when we read out when we not race day on the podcast after the race, we will just sit there and go, "Oh, Valtteri Bottas finished in P17, another quiet race," and you're just like, I completely forgot Valtteri. Every weekend, I forget that Valtteri is driving,
Yeah,
and then you go, "Oh, right, Valtteri Bottas, forgot about you, man."
it is a big struggle for him, and I think yeah, it's a good way for him to go out. Let him be done.
It's not. It's really not. But
It's a payday for a Sunday drive, and then you're done. You're done. You know, you're
yeah,
chilling.
right
Sure,
off
he
into the
didn't.
sunset and everything. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't know if Valtteri is thinking about the Audi seat and thinking, yeah, I'm gonna be here until Audi. But oh man,
The problem
he's
is
been
that's
he's been he's been driving like a pensioner for 2 seasons now.
and it's painful to see that he's driving like a pensioner. And the thing is, to wait for 2 seasons for an Audi contract, I'd see unlikely. Like,
Especially when your drivers don't even look that good. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Valtteri retires. I'm with you on that one. If I mean not retires, I think he leaves F1. I think he goes and does other stuff like
oh yeah,
WEC, goes and wins rally. Like, yeah, I 100% believe he could go and win the Rally World Championship or in WEC because he's a multiple race winner. If Antonio Giovinazzi can win in Le
Lamar.
Mans, he can.
Yeah. And let's talk about the two last boys here, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. I
Man,
don't see a seat for
see,
them. Like outside of
see,
Alpine, I don't see the seat for them.
See, I mean, look, I think they re-signed them because
Yeah.
what else are you going to do? Um, they do have Jack Doohan in their academy, and I like Jack. I really like Jack, but I like him as a person. His driving is good, but I wouldn't consider him better than the two race winners that you have in your team.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's the problem, and where Oscar Piastri made the right decision in going to McLaren because I don't know if those two drivers get replaced. They're both around the same age. They're in their mid-20s. They can still race for another 10 years and still only be like 35. I mean, the 35, which is younger than what Lewis is now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo took a break, came back, and he's what, like around 35. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think they stay. I think they stay with the two drivers that they have because who else do they pick? Who else do they take?
I don't know. Alpine. For me, the problem comes down to that leadership at Alpine. Right. There's nothing
What leadership?
exactly. Right. Who's going to be picking the next drivers? The next guys to go. Like if Pierre and Esteban stop performing, right? Who's gonna be there to say, okay, we need to maybe switch out the drivers and put in some maybe a rookie and a different experienced driver as a lineup here? Who's gonna do that? You see, we come up blank with an answer for this, and
Yeah. I wish we had a soundboard because I would have pressed the crickets button right there because genuinely I have no idea.
oh no,
I have no idea what they do.
I have the full cricket sound if you want to have it. Like, who's going to do
Go
it?
for it,
Like, oh,
please.
like that's all it is. I know it was very soft for everyone, but
But no, it sounded perfectly fine to me, man.
like,
Because that's been
yeah,
it's a genuine feeling of hopelessness when you look at Alpine because it gets considerably worse when you actually know the details about how they fired Upnar, because it makes no sense. You brought in a guy that's a proven team principal. Yes, okay, Mike Crack is a better team principal, but that's why you brought in Mike Crack to take over Aston. But it's not like he did a terrible job with Racing Point. He built them from a midfield team to a team that was fighting for race wins and podiums at one point.
Yeah.
So that's the that seems like the right kind of guy to have in your team. But then firing him before any of his hires for his turnaround strategy have even started working at Alpine makes no sense.
You know what I think it is? It was more of a. It could have been like almost a nepotism thing that happened within Alpine, or you know, I want to get my friend in here because we can do something. But the problem is, I think it's just a bunch of like, I want to say sales guys. It's just a bunch of
Bunch
sales
of guys
guys
in suits, bunch
who,
of dudes in suits.
bunch of dudes in suits, who are who have no knowledge of F1, and they like then say, okay, you the team principal, get out. Like I'm gonna be real. Who's the team? Do you know who's the team principal of Alpine right now?
No.
Like I must say, like after Atmosaf now left,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard about Alpine's team principal. There's been no news, no nothing.
They had an interim person in for a period, but I have no idea who the actual team principal is,
Right?
because online it still says Upmar.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Oh, no, I see another article. Alpine in no hurry to secure a new team principal after the management change. How?
I I don't know, man. I don't know. Apparently, the current person in charge is he's basically a guy in a suit. That, to my knowledge, that's what it is. He's a guy in a suit who's running an F1 team. We've seen this happen before, and it's never gone well.
Dude, like it really bothers me because it's like, why not just give that seat to Porsche, right?
That's what
Like,
I'm saying. Just sell the team. Just sell it. Just give it to Porsche. Just get and the engine design and everything so that Porsche can take it and then build it better. Like just sell, just sell it
just
all,
sell
and then
and leave. Like,
yeah, just sell and leave, because I'm honestly really tired of it, man. But we all know Renault will sell, and then 10 years from now they'll be back.
they'll be back. They always will be back
They'll always come back.
for a reason. Because for reasons, who knows? But they'll come back for it.
Is it Renault and Honda? Those guys. Those are the two that every time they leave, they come back.
You know who we need back?
Who?
BMW, Toyota. Must I continue? Like, imagine if we get BMW back in.
Hey, you're not bringing back any glory days for me, bruh. I never liked BMW in F1. That
I'm
should just
saying,
to annoy me, bruh.
I'm saying,
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not
I'm
gonna lie
saying
to you.
more
Because
teams.
to
This is my passion.
me growing up, race cars were not BMWs, bruh.
Uh,
Like Ferrari, McLaren. I don't know what a Williams is, but a Williams, you know?
uh,
Back when I was a kid, it's like, yeah, these sound like racing names.
Toyota.
Why is Toyota in racing? Toyota don't make race cars.
Have you seen the Supra?
Hey.
That's a Supra.
Okay, let's be real. Let's be real. The
Have you
Supra's
seen
a
the
bit
new?
overweight.
Have you seen the
The-
new
the- the-
Yaris and Corolla? Have you seen that? Those are some
okay,
sports cars.
yes,
I'd say, not
yes.
supercars.
No, those are nice. Those are nice cars, but they're not supercars.
No,
They
no, definitely.
they don't make supercars at all. Even the one that they made, it took them forever to make it. And I'm talking about the Lexus LFA, but I mean, it took them forever to make that car.
Oh, when you say
So
that name, it just reminds me of the engine, man. Oh,
yes, obviously, I mean, let's call back to screaming engines, please. Let's get those back in F1. But yeah, Alpine, man, they make no sense. They make no sense. For me, the board coming out and being like, yes, we want to be fighting for a championship in 2 years. I'm
5 years.
like,
It was 5 at first.
yeah, I know it was, but I mean, their time scale made no sense. They said they wanted to be fighting for race wins within 2 years, didn't they?
I'm pretty sure it was 5. That their whole idea was they wanted to fight for the constructors in 5 years.
Yeah, I remember that. But I mean, how far into this project are we? Aren't we on year 3 already?
Yeah, year 3, and year 3's been scrapped.
Yeah. So year 4, and then year 5.
Hey, guess what? New
Y'all aren't
regulations come
fighting.
around.
Yeah, but they're not fighting for anything right now. And even if they get it right in 2026, like, what are the chances? Truly, what are the chances?
They are a sinking ship, regardless.
Yeah.
They
I
could
mean,
build that beautiful racecraft, right? But as it stands right now, you have no leadership, right? How are you going to
man,
decide whether there needs to be a first driver or not?
how do you know what direction you need to go?
Yeah,
How do you know
exactly.
that? How do you know that you're not pulling in the wrong direction for too long, and then you decide, okay, nah, we need to change direction? Who's the person that's taking who's making those decisions?
Yeah. Who's negotiating like relationships with the drivers? Are you just letting
Yeah,
HR from the factory do all the work? Like, there's it's a big problem, bro. Like, I mean, we'll see, because it's gonna show next year, right? And it's going to show incredibly hard next year. I will not be
yeah.
surprised if Alpine is last in the championship next year. I will
I
not be
would not be
surprised,
surprised either. I genuinely would not be surprised.
because I'm gonna say it. I don't know if they even started working on 24's car yet.
Alpine.
Most teams have already built. Like Toto Wolff would have made sure that, oh yeah, from June or July onwards, we're gonna start investing some research into 24's car, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong. And also, I found the team principal. The team principal is Bruno Famin.
Bruno.
He's a French automotive engineer, um, and he used to be the technical director for Peugeot Sport.
Okay. Is this the Peugeot that's going? Because I was gonna say, is it the Peugeot that went into the LMDH and LMH?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I mean, the thing is, he's got a. I assume he's got a relationship with Jean Todt, because Jean Todt is the one that started the Peugeot Sports, like, team.
Yeah.
So he should have. I mean, if he's got a relationship with Jean Todt, hopefully he's got a good head on his shoulders. So there's. I mean, yeah, but it's one of those decisions where you're like, okay, well, it didn't work when Williams did it with bringing in I forgot his name now. Williams previous team principal.
Ooh. Ooh. Uh. Nah, I don't have his name off the top of my head.
Um,
Da-da. Just Capito. Just.
us, yes. He he's a what? I think he won rally, or it was a WEC, but he's been a team principal for many race winning teams. So if it didn't work for him, it's one of those things where you're kind of like, will it work at a team that's chronically got bad team management? Very unlikely.
Yeah. It really is an unlikelihood. So to keep Esteban at Pierre at Alpine, that I think is their biggest hope and
Yeah, they
prayers,
have to.
until they figure something else out. And the thing is, contract negotiations is gonna get worse for Alpine in 2024 if they don't have a well structured format and team principle put in place.
Yeah, because there are a lot of available places to go. And if you're Pierre Gasly, you might even be thinking, dude, I should go back to Red Bull. I just need to go home.
Bro, if I was
It seems
Pierre
like
Gasly,
every,
I'd look at that
it seems
Ferrari
like every
seat.
driver it seems like every driver that leaves Red Bull, other than Carlos Sainz, hasn't had a great experience.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
look at Seb Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, now Pierre Gasly. I mean, he's not really having the greatest time right now. He's joined
Danny,
a rather dysfunctional team.
Danny Kiev. Don't forget Danny.
Kvyat, oh yes,
Kvyat is.
yeah, the torpedo.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Oh
torpedo. That
man, yeah.
it was absolute madness. But do you have any other rounding points you want to go over?
I don't.
No more, no more. All right, lovely. Well, I've got
Well, actually, there's an interesting one. Here's
yeah.
an interesting one. Since we are talking about silly season to an extent, there's been a lot of chatter that Red Bull want to break Lando out of his
Oh,
McLaren contract. And as much as that sounds great on paper, Max and Lando in the same car, you're like, ooh, that sounds tasty.
yeah.
Lando is not going to join Red Bull and come be a second driver. He's not going to do that. And it's one of those things that you can't go to the team and expect the team to form around you because there's a three-time world champion right next to you.
He's been at the team since 2017.
Been at the team.
Since
Been at the team.
years. Like
He's been there for 6 years, bruh. That's longer than you've been in the sport.
exactly.
And now, yeah, so it's like one of those things where I don't think that's going to happen. I think Lando's going to stay at McLaren. Strangest case scenario, he goes to Ferrari, but I doubt it.
the my only thing is I think Lando won't go to Red Bull. One, because of your point as well, but at the same time, is Red Bull won't do that because we spoke about it when we said Sergio Perez, right? Or
Mm,
putting you don't want to put you need a number two driver, right? Lando
yep.
does not want to be a number two driver, right?
Lando
Lando
wants to
wants
be a world champion.
he wants to be a world champion, and he's
Hmm.
part of the caliber of drivers that we have on the grid that are world champion caliber drivers.
Yep.
And if you're gonna put them as a second driver on a team, it's a waste. You're
Or,
honestly
or
wasting
or it's going to be a Nico Lewis.
it. Exactly that. And the best thing for Red Bull to do is just ultimately avoid having a Nico Lewis, right? Don't make
Yep.
such situations for yourself where you're not going to be able to handle because you already have Helmut Marko who has no leash on, right? So he's going to
Yeah.
go on left, right, and yeah, end of story. I just say Helmut Marko there as well,
Yeah. Yeah. He's just going to go Helmut Marko.
and it's not going to be
His
an
his name
interesting
should be a bloody adjective.
possibly. And like, so as great as it is for Lando, here's the thing that Red Bull would have to do if they're gonna sign Lando. It's the same thing Mercedes probably should have done. Maybe some, as I saw from some person. I'll get onto it just now, but give Lando the contract and says you are number two driver. You will not challenge Max. You will always swap position with Max. End of story. And
And which what? So when you say what contract with Lewis, what do
yeah,
you mean specifically?
so I was watching another YouTube video, and the the one guy where he was saying right, Mercedes are not listening to Lewis, right? Because Lewis said
Mm,
keep Valtteri, right? Lewis
yeah.
was saying the design of the car is going into a bad direction, right? Mercedes were not listening to him, which
Mm-hmm,
ultimately
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
resulted in 2022's performance of
mm-hmm.
Mercedes, right?
They still
And
want a race though.
no, they still won a race though, right? But now the thing is with now we have the thing of like Japan, right? Where if Lewis and George's car is championship caliber, they are going to end up with a Lewis Nico. It's going to happen, right? And
Well,
in the
yeah.
video,
Okay.
the guy
So
said he said what Mercedes should have done if they really wanted to sign George is say you are number two driver to Lewis. Until Lewis leaves, you are number two, and then you can have your number one driver at Mercedes.
here's the problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
when you bring a driver into a team and you say, "Yo, dude, you're number two," that can really demoralize a driver, and I don't think they want to do that because he's the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would prefer. I don't have a problem with them being a little bit feisty with each other because it does because with them it's not the Nico and Lewis thing.
Yeah.
Nico and Lewis is a very unique situation. We have to put that in perspective. I know we all
Yes.
refer to it as the Nico and Lewis. You don't want teammates colliding and stuff. Nico and Lewis have been doing battle since they were kids, and Lewis and Nico is a son of a world champion getting beat by this dude from nowhere all the time,
Yeah.
all the time, every fucking time. It's you again, fuck you again.
You look left,
And
it's
that's
you
what
again.
Nico has been dealing with that shit for decades. And then it came to blows in 2014 and 15 and 16. And as soon as he won his world championship, he was like, I'm done. I'm never doing this shit again. I'm never fighting this guy again.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's specific experiences like that. It's like if you remember when last season when Charles and Max were doing the swap overs and they
Yeah.
were being very gentlemanly when they were racing each other because they've raced with each other for a longer period of time. Imagine if Charles had like tons of animosity towards um,
Max.
Max and then didn't give him enough space, didn't do those things. Eh, how many times do you think they would have crashed?
Oh, plenty of times.
Exactly. So there's a slight difference with that is that they had been competitive with each other for a long ass time. And from Nico's perspective, Nico went to Mercedes, built that team with Schumacher, beat Schumacher, then was supposed to win the world championship. And in comes Sir Lewis Hamilton to go and win the world championship and then dominate afterwards. So there were extenuating circumstances for them, but it doesn't then detract from the fact that Max and Danny have collided. There are plenty other teammates like
Yeah.
Esteban has basically collided with every one of his teammates. It happens, but I don't always like the number one, number two driver thing. I like racing. And in the rules are to me and to a lot of people, rule number one, beat your teammate. Rule number two, don't crash into your teammate. And you know, if there's explicit rules like back in the day of team orders, which I don't like, I don't want to see that sort of thing. I want to see, even if you're in the same team, I want to see you race. I want to see Piastri versus Lando. I want to see Hamilton versus Russell. I want to
Mm.
see
Charles
Charles
versus Carlos.
versus Sainz.
Yeah.
And every time, I mean, everyone was on the Charles bandwagon, and then Sainz started beating his ass, and now we're all like, yes, the smooth operator is demonstrating.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have had that shot if he wasn't allowed to race against his teammate. So even though even though like I'm sure Charles I'm not Charles Charles is the number one guy, they still let them fight,
Yeah.
and I want to see that.
I
That's what I want to see. I
I
want you guys have the same car. Who's faster? Let's go.
exactly. And to add to your point specifically, which confirms it, Carlos Sainz said that there isn't a number one or two driver at Ferrari. We aren't fighting to be number one or number two on the in the team. The priority is Ferrari. There isn't number one or number two. That's the invention of the media or the fans like us. you know,
Yeah.
we like to see. That's why, like, the reason why I brought it up was because I disagreed with the man with his statement, right, in saying that,
Yeah.
you know, George must be sit as number two driver, and you will only be number one driver once Lewis leaves the team. I feel like it's such a old way. I want to call it the Bernie Eccleston era of doing
Yes.
Formula One,
Yes. Exactly.
and it's it's like, even if you look at it, the man the video I watched was an elder gentleman. You know, he's probably
Mm,
watched Formula One for 20 odd years. You know, he see the different eras that's come
mm,
around, and he has his favorite era, which for me, I'm with the new generation. I don't see the reason why we should have these number one or number two drivers swapping
More
of
team
position
orders.
or team orders, like swapping of
Mm.
positions, which is actually to go back to our last episode when I said Pierre was asked to swap positions with Ocon. The
Yeah.
reason they did that was because Ocon was on no Pierre was on faster tires, so him and Ocon swapped positions to see if Pierre could go ahead and catch somebody else. But Pierre was unable to afterwards, so they told him to swap positions, which it's a gentleman's agreement that everyone has in the
Ah,
team, right?
ah.
It's
Okay, that goes back to the clip that I sent to the late breakers with Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. This was in Hungary, I believe. Maybe 3 years ago when yeah, 3 years ago. So 2020, 2019 maybe.
yeah.
When was the Mercedes Silver?
Mercedes Silver was 2019, I believe. It should be 2019.
Because 2020 is when it went black. Last season it was silver again. So it must have been 2019. So
Yeah,
in
2019.
2019, they Lewis felt like he was faster. Said to the team after I think a lap, Valtteri let him through on turn one, and he tried to catch the cars in front of him, couldn't, and on the last lap gave him back the position, and yeah, that that was cool. That was really nice to see.
Yeah,
But because I felt some type of way when they told Pierre to swap with Ocon, but now that I have the full context and the full story, it's like, yeah, I don't know why Pierre was so upset about that. That was the right move to make. It's a gentleman's agreement, but it's also a teammate's agreement. If your teammate lets you through because you got faster tires, but you aren't able to close the gap, give the position back because he let you through.
yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I only realized that within this week that it was a gentleman's agreement. That I was like, oh, well, last week after the podcast that it was gentleman's
Mm.
agreement, which I was more disappointed in Gasly's outburst about it
Yeah,
because it's like
yeah,
just
but you
because
knew.
you're
I mean,
faster, they like then you should have just told the team, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it the old school way,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
and then
yeah,
take
then
the
you shouldn't have
position
taken team orders and you should have just raced.
and raced for the position, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just a sad sea. But that is all I have for today, though. I have no other words for what happened there. We've got Qatar coming up for us, so ladies and gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
please join us in the Twitch stream. We'll be live for the sprint qualifying. Oh, not sprint qual. The qualifying on Friday, sprint qualifying on Saturday, as well as sprint race, and then the race on Sunday as well. You can catch myself. I'm Speed should be joining me for a bit of the qualifying. One of the qualifyings. We'll see which one he wants to join us in on. But you can join all of the late breakers definitely on Sunday for the full race as well as sprint race. But other than that, that is going to be the end of the podcast for today. And we will see you guys again on the Twitch. For me, Twitch stream. Nash, we'll catch you most likely in the next episode.
Indeed.
So we'll see you guys, and cheers for now.
Cheers.
Bye.